I do get asked once in a while, where should I mount my unit in the room? One thing that we definitely suggest is you always make sure you give yourselves at least 3 feet off the inlet or exhaust side. This will prevent the unit from short cycling. Some people have, a lot of times there's size constraints, there's height constraints for placing your unit. So a lot of time it's kind of wherever you can fit them. Another thing to keep in mind is from a maintenance perspective. And another key one is, I hate to even say this one, but if you ever do have a failure, and of course a unit's always going to break in week 6 of flower, and these guys will place the units directly on top of their bed, and even though it rolls a foot one way or the other, you still can't access it. So it's really key when you're placing your units to make sure that if you ever do have a failure, how can you get this unit out of there if you're in your final weeks of flower, and that's when it's most important to have your dehumidification.
It's a little bit of planning, but you do a little bit of planning goes a long way, right? I mean, sometimes you get in a situation where, the grower's just really excited, places it, throws it up somewhere, but there's no thought brought into it, right? Like, am I close to a wall? Can this unit be serviced? Can I even change the filter from this location, right?
Yeah.
How am I going to remove this unit if anything ever was to go wrong, right? So there's little simple things like that.
Yeah,
but
having
most
that
of
access,
it's common sense, right?
That access on all sides is really key.
For
Some
sure.
guys will butt them right up against the side, say, well, I got space, and then you realize that they had a failure and they can't even access
It's on the service side,
the service side.
And in that case, you're dropping the unit just to make a simple repair, right? So that can be expensive, and it's a lot more time consuming too. So.
And then on the opposite side of what you're saying, some people don't put any thought. There's some guys who put so much thought where everything has to be symmetrical in the room, and they can't stand if the dehumidifiers aren't hung perfectly center. And that means from an access standpoint, it's really difficult when you do have to do service on them. So being able to really think about the big picture, the service perspective, and knowing that eventually you are going to have to service the unit from a filter changing, but if there ever is a failure, how are you going to get that unit out in a worst case if you're in your flower?
It's a mechanical piece of equipment. It's going to be a certain point. You're going to have some repair. It could be as simple as just a capacitor. It could be as simple as maybe changing a fan motor, or something even easier. But the point is it's running long days. It's running for long periods of time. It is a mechanical piece of equipment, and you will be in a position at some point you're going to repair something. Make sure it's easy to accessible and get to it, right? So that's one of the easiest ones.
Yeah, for sure.